Although INFPs would not be the first ones to actively protect others, there is a quality to INFPs that fight for their ideals and beliefs very fiercely that we see in her character. Arwen's in tune with her outside world as a heightened sensing being as an elf that INFPs are not typically known for compared to other types. But I would argue that this is just an innate elven quality to be aware of her environment and always fight the dark things on Arda to keep the harmony and balance for the good of all. It could also be argued that Arwen is an ambivert, which means she can be more extroverted when she needs to be and introverted when she wants. But just going by the book and movie, we don't see her outside in the world of Rivendell as much, so it is difficult to say. She is a very warm character, so she could fit into many types including ISFP or even the ENFJ. I have heard that she was. I will do my best with a quote she was given by Tolkien and Jackson to give a good analysis. So let's take a look at how Arwen is the strong but healing INFP together. The dominant function in the INFP is the introverted or internal feeling. INFPs have a very strong moral code within and demonstrate it in the way they see the world. Oftentimes, this type is known as the idealist or dreamer because they are in tune with their deep-seated values and consider them the most important in life. Her beliefs and ideals of love and life are seen as what is worth fighting for in this world. This is where you see the INFP really shine. They can be considerate of others, but they certainly never follow the group, and they march to the beat of their own drummer. The example is of Arwen deciding to not go with her elven brethren and sisters to sail to the west, but to instead stay on Arda with the man she loves. She did not care to follow others. She follows her heart. She also does not care what others may think of her or their opinions. She tells Aragorn to keep the even star after he tries to give it back to her, saying the famous Tolkien quote, "It is mine to give to whom I will, like my heart." She clearly does not give into his doubts and pierces through his insecurity about the future with her own strength of her inner feelings of unconditional love. We see this in her beautiful poetic quote, "I would rather share one lifetime with you than face all of the ages of this world alone." She is clearly the beautiful artist muse, and inspiring enough as a character to fill Aragorn's head of her vision, as if he strayed into a dream. He said when he met her, as Tolkien said in his book about the first time Aragorn met Arwen, "Then Aragorn was abashed, for he saw the elven light in her eyes, and the wisdom of many days. Yet from that hour he loved Arwen Undaminel, daughter of Elrond." The nature of the INFP is to be free-spirited enough to be sovereign over their own desires and feelings, but in that is what makes them an inspiration to others, as Arwen was an inspiration to many who read the story about an elf maiden who followed her heart rather than a duty to her people as the evening star. Her next function is the extroverted or internal intuition. This means she uses her intuition to find patterns, underlying principles, and ideas to form connections about the world. Arwen does see a vision of her future child, but she is prompted by this vision later because she noticed how quickly her father was trying to usher her off to the west. She mixed her gut instincts with the taking in the clues of the external world and sensed her father was not telling her all that he saw. Arwen herself could not see Aragorn Jr. when Elrond did, but she eventually caught on to his fears, and we see this when she confronts her father in Rivendell Garden with her lines, "You have the gift of foresight. Tell me what you see." And Elrond then tells her that he looked into her future and saw her death, in which she replies, "But there is also life. You saw there was a child. You saw my son." Extroverted intuition is always seeing possibilities, and this is what gives the INFP the dreamer persona. They always want to know what could be, not necessarily what is or was, but what could be in a more idealistic version of their reality they sense deep within. She saw a possibility to make a life on Arda with Aragorn, although shorter lived than being immortal in the Undying Lands of Amin, the home of the Valar. It was still what was worth it to her. Introverted sensing is her third function in how she gathers information from the outside world. She can take in information about the world and process it internally, not always relying on the physical evidence of the world that she sees, but previous memories or stored information of the subconscious. I found an example of when she spoke to Aragorn about the memories of the past. She said, "The shadow does not hold sway yet, not over you and not over me. Do you remember the time when we first met? Long years have passed. You did not have the cares you carry now. Do you remember the word I told you?" And she also had reminded Aragorn of another time of his past to pull information into his present moment. In an extended version of The Return of the King, she says this: "Is this how you would take your leave? Did you think you could slip away at first light unnoticed? You underestimate your skill in battle. You will come back." This seems to suggest that although her elf senses allow her to perceive the environment with heightened awareness, she relies on more about the past and internal memories about the world than actual evidence of the present time and moment. Extroverted thinking is her last function, which is how she perceives the world. Here, the judging is done based on emotions and values as an introverted feeler and allows her to make rational and logical decisions even while following her heart. There is a good quote that she did not say in the movie, but instead the book, which shows her as a well-thought character. "But the Queen Arwen said, 'A gift I will give you, for I am the daughter of Elrond. I shall not go with him now when he departs to the havens, for mine is the choice of Luthien, and as she, so I have chosen, both the sweet and the bitter. But in my stead you shall go, ring-bearer, when the time comes, and if you then desire it, if your hurts grieve you still, and the memory of your burden is heavy, then you may pass into the west, until all your wounds and weariness are healed. But wear this now, in memory of Elfstone and Evenstar, with whom your life has been woven." And she took a white gem like a star that lay upon her breast, hanging upon a silver chain, and she set the chain around Frodo's neck. "When the memory of the fear and the darkness troubles you," she said, "this will bring you aid." She clearly sees the ring will be a burden to Frodo later, and so she lets him know that he can sail to the Undying Lands if his soul yearns for a rest after his long journey. I wish they included this part in the movies to show where did the idea come to Frodo in the first place to sail west, but I understand Jackson's vision making it about Frodo's own personal process. Arwen is kind and gift-giving, taking in the external world in thought and balancing with her high function of the emotions that she has inside. She also is observed giving Aragorn several rational points of view to help him in his life and acts as the inspirer to him. She tells Aragorn that he is not like his past ancestors and their choices are not connected to the same path. She tells him, "Why do you fear the past? You are Isildur's heir, not Isildur himself. You are not bound to his fate." And then Aragorn says, "Well, the same blood flows in my veins. It's the same weakness." And then Arwen says, "Well, your time will come. You will face the same evil, and you will defeat it." Once again, we see her very inspiring and her ideals about the way that she sees Aragorn in her love. She knows and has this idealistic version of the future, knowing that he will defeat it, that he will not make the same choices as his corrupted ancestors did, but he will be different, and his path will be a brighter future that she perceives. I truly sense that Tolkien created a character that is both a bleeding heart romantic as well as a strong, independent woman who can think carefully about the world she lives in. Many people type Tolkien as an INFP himself, and you can see why when he spends so much time writing a story created from his own deep, profound values for humanity to share in. Tolkien shows his inspiring free spirit as an INFP, trying to bring others into his world of great ideals by saying, myth and fairy story must, as all art, reflect and contain in solution elements of moral and religious truth, or error, but not explicit, not in the known form of the primary real world. He himself is not really concerned with the actual real physical world, but more concerned and primarily focused on the world in the realms of the hope and the ideals and the thoughts about a brighter future for all.